Welcome back to the Grieving Sisters. I'm Jessica.
I'm Elizabeth.
And we are another one of our snow day guests because, we had January, then February, and I'm just so grateful to have you here, Nayera.
Yeah.
Of course, I didn't want to jack it up, right? Because, very you just got to be punctual, people. But I'm excited to have her here. We have another professional. She's a multi-state therapist as well. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we can go into detail. And we're going to actually cover disenfranchised grief, and I think that this was a very important topic because a lot of people, you have. Who was talking about it? Oprah. Mm-hmm. She was trying to piggyback and don't connect, disconnect from them. So we'll get into that. But go ahead, tell us about yourself.
Well, thank you for having me tonight. Of
course.
So I am a licensed psychotherapist. I specialize in women's issues, grief, and cultural trauma. But beyond my profession, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a happy and proud dog mama to the sweetest little boy.
I love it.
But yeah, I'm someone who loves depth. I crave depth, and I find that it strengthens relationships at their core.
Sure.
So I'm just excited to be here tonight and, engage in these conversations that celebrate this kind of connection.
Absolutely. Because, with grief, there's so many, it's multifaceted, right? Mm-hmm. There's so many different levels. There's so many different layers. It's so many just different even impacts that, especially with Liz and I, just traumatic losses. Mm-hmm. And then, you have people with compounded losses and things like that. So what has led you to do this work?
Well, it was part of my healing, actually. Everything transpired in my life at the age of 19. And I'll talk more about it in this episode. But at that time, it was a moment where I knew I needed support. And it was either I go down a path that I knew I'd regret over time and I'd be, even more sorry about it.
Sure.
Or do what I need to do for myself because I quite literally have no other option. And through that process, I found my own personal therapist, and I engaged in the process, and it was uncomfortable and it was hard, but I did it.
Yeah.
And over time, I just knew, you know what? I think that being in the helping profession aligns with my values and it aligns with my personality.
Yeah.
And so it just worked, and I found myself, changing my major in college and really making the changes I needed to make. And I have no regrets, and it just worked out.
Absolutely. And they always say 85% of people who are therapists are always just trying to look for the clarity in their life. They're looking for the healing in their life. And and it's so true. It's 100. And I feel like you and I, we can also we have a cheat sheet. I feel like we also cheat a little bit, right? Because it's oh, okay, well, I'm helping this client or this patient, and it's okay, wait. This is something that's feeling uncomfortable. Yeah, and it's making me feel a little uncomfortable. Let me go check this out real quick and kind of see what it is. But I know that we wanted to talk about disenfranchised grief. Let's dive in, girl. Let's do it.
Yeah, so I know disenfranchised grief is a term that, I get a lot of an eyebrow raised, what's that?
A therapeutic term, and everyone's it's like that. What is it? What do they call it? The pop psychology on TikTok. I don't have TikTok. She deals with the TikTok. I don't deal with it.
Yeah,
She's a year later, and I still didn't cave. I told you.
That's true.
No, it's a term that, I'm happy to explain, and even in my personal life when I talk about it, I get the eyebrow raise, and it's totally valid. It's just not spoken about, and I think that's ultimately the problem here.
Yeah.
Disenfranchised grief is grief that isn't recognized, supported, or validated in our society. It's when a loss doesn't fit society's rules on what's worthy of mourning. So, there are no funerals. There's no casserole. There are no sympathy cards. But yet it's a loss so profound and so real for you. And yet you have to explain that to others, and it makes sense for you because the loss is so real.
Right.
But you're stuck convincing it. Convincing others about
and trying
it.
To justify it.
Yeah. Trying to justify it, yes.
Wow. That's it's so heavy.
Yes.
But you explained it so well, and thank you for that, because I feel a lot of people, they still won't understand that. They're okay, so let's get into detail on how did that work out? How did that fit into your life?
Yeah. So back in 2016, November 11th, 2016, I'll never forget that day, I was talking to my mother, and I was having a full-blown conversation with her. And within minutes, she was gone. And what I mean by that is she had gotten a stroke. She had a stroke, and that stroke changed her life and our lives forever. It's called a thrombotic stroke, which is when a blood clot develops in the artery that supplies blood to the brain.
Wow.
So when that happens, the way things change in your life really depends on the kind of damage. And the kind of damage isn't known until after, doctors go in and say, okay, here's what happened, and here's the extent to which life will now be different for this person.
Yeah.
It happened on the left side of her brain, and the left side of her brain of anyone's brain is what controls language and logic.
Wow. So
So
that's it. She lost language.
so
logic.
my mother is disabled now. She's completely nonverbal. She went from being a hustler mother, and I'm happy to talk about that later too, to someone who can't express herself. It's aphasia, so you can't write out
Wow.
how you feel and what you want to say. You can't draw it out. You can't do anything.
It's just stuck inside.
It's stuck inside, exactly.
Essentially.
And anything that comes out of her mouth is gibberish. So it's really hard. And it's been like this since 2016.
Wow. That's 10 years.
It's been 10 years. So this year marks 10 years, which is even more special that I'm here, because I feel like years ago I wouldn't even be able to form a sentence to talk about it. Yeah.
I believe it. Wow. Wow. And she's still, even 10 years later, there's like no progress, nothing.
10 years later, because of the damage that happened to her brain, 10 years later, no progress. All the speech therapy in the world can't change anything here. No physical therapy is helping, and no shade to physical therapists
Sure.
or speech therapists. They're doing all the work that they can, but the damage is
Done.
It's
like when you
bigger
burn a
than that.
nerve, like you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's ultimately what had happened. And so disenfranchised grief, it gives me a name. It's my way of naming the experience that's going on, because at one point I sat with myself not able to make sense of what's going on.
Right.
And labeling it helped a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
But look at that. Like you can't even, she can't even congratulate you or anything. Just, it's really hard. I'm sorry to hear that. That's really, and she's still living, so it's like she has 24-hour care. That's what you're saying. Wow.
Yeah.
So are you considered her caretaker? Essentially.
No. So I am the youngest of 3 siblings.
Okay.
And my brother is her 24/7 caretaker. So I honor his commitment to showing up for her. He lives with her. And he's there for all of her needs. There was a time where I stepped in and I did that.
Sure.
And there's a time where my sister had stepped in and did that. But all of our lives kind of went different directions, and we needed to make sure that she'd have care. So right now it's my brother doing it. But there is always someone at home. And if not, all of us are in touch with her. So there's always a way to stay connected and to make sure that she's okay. But she is able to do the basics for herself. She's been in rehab where she's been, able to get support with using the bathroom, let's say, bathing herself,
Right.
even like grabbing food and drinking water. She's able to do that now for herself.
great.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like such a positive, like to hear,
Yeah.
And I know that you had a question, right?
Well, I was just thinking, like, what is it like grieving your mother while she's still present?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know she's still here, but there's parts of her that are forever changed, right?
Yeah. It's probably one of the loneliest and confusing emotional experiences. I'm grieving someone who's sitting quite literally in front of me, and it's disorienting.
Yeah.
It's a disorienting experience
Right.
because the body knows that there's been a loss, but making sense of it as you're looking at it, as you're looking at your own reality, is just so. I can't even explain it.
Would you also think that, like, it's also kind of anticipatory, right? Because I feel like it's like, well, you took this part, like now when is like the next shoe, when is the other shoe going to drop almost? Like that's like, it's like a sickness almost, like she's sick. It's almost like anticipation grief a little bit, because it's like, although she's getting the care and everything like that, like, oh, wow.
Yeah. It's like in between life and death, I think about it. Like you're stuck in between 2 realms,
Right.
and you're just watching someone you love suffer through that.
Right.
And that is why it's confusing, because you're not understanding why that had to be.
Right, exactly. Especially your mom, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's mom, you know? Like,
It just feels so unfair. I can't imagine what you're feeling.
yeah.
You know, I think it's the sudden loss that I think is so shocking to your nervous system. We experience like from 1 minute to the next. There's no sickness there, and I'm not downplaying anybody who's had to watch somebody beat cancer or
Right.
lose
That's
their,
like a different
their
level
loved
of-
one. It's
right.
it's a different type of grief, but
Right.
I think it's that shock to your like nervous system that. I don't know about for you, but I started feeling like that's how things were going to happen. Like everything in my life was going to be like a shock.
Right.
You know, nothing was going to be slow enough for me to work through it.
Right.
Do you feel like that? Like kind of afraid,
Absolutely.
like have like this anxiety that like other things are going to happen that kind of shake you to your core?
Absolutely. And you know what? It's the kind of closure that you never get. It's just reminders of what's gone and what's never going to be again. So as you're confronting that and then also just trying to remain positive, it's just not realistic to stay in that zone for
Right.
too long.
Right.
That's where I call it toxic positivity, right? Like
yeah.
we can't be positive about these kinds of things all the time.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's so
Just
easy to get
realistic.
right. Like
You
it's
have
so easy to get caught up in this notion that okay, one bad thing happened, I can't expect for it to get better from here, and it's
Right.
constant like mental training
Yeah.
to do that. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I did have a question for you. You had described grief as love with nowhere to go. What happens to that trapped energy in the body?
Yeah. So love with nowhere to go. So when I talk about this with my clients, I emphasize love being energy. It's an
Yeah,
energy,
because it
and
is, yeah.
because it sure is, and energy requires movement, right? But when you can't deliver that to the person that you love anymore, and that's any relationship really, it just now the associations aren't as positive and wholesome. So when you're sending that off, you can't anymore, and so it goes inward,
Right.
and that negative association makes what's turning inward manifest into what looks like anxiety or depression or somatic symptoms of any sort, right?
Right.
Or like emotional outbursts where you're really trying to keep it together, but you can't, and you
Right.
never know when it's going to happen,
Yeah.
right? So that's how I describe it, and it's a caging experience.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just,
That makes perfect sense.
yeah. And you nailed it, because I feel like that is what they say, energy and motion. That's why they call it emotion, because it's energy in motion. And a lot of people don't, sometimes when they're not, I don't want to say lack of awareness, right? Because I don't know if that's the word for it, but it's just not present within them, in front of them, to actually acknowledge like love is hate is energy, like this is, oh my gosh. Now from a clinical perspective, right? Because we have to kind of touch on that. How does the stored emotion impact mental and physical health? So we've had Agatha on here, how grief is in the lungs. And she's done actually tinctures for us, and she gave us and our audience 10% off. Then we also had Miguel here. I always, any chance to
the
bring
breath
Miguel. I love him. That's my soul brother. And, he does the meditations and he does breath work, and he really, really is intentional about really helping people kind of get through this. What is your clinical perspective?
Yeah. So given that I work with a lot of clients that are struggling with grief, I'm someone who emphasizes that grief work, it isn't just emotional work, it's physiological as well. It's a physiological experience all around. But talking about what that does to the body, I think about how the body responds, and it responds loudly to what the mind isn't given permission to process.
Right.
And so anything of any sort in terms of, anything that's unprocessed that activates the nervous system.
Right.
Which then causes chronic stress hormones to develop over time. Right.
The cortisol is like to the roof. Kind of like what we were just talking about too. We were just talking about that. Because you have all that cortisol that spikes up, so now you're gaining weight. You're eating like garbage, or some people just don't eat at all, but that cortisol is still spiked up to the roof. That some people they get even more sick. The grief makes them so sick.
Yeah. But
what would you say to somebody that who feels like they're like a shell of themselves, even like years into grief?
I look at grief as something that it shakes you, it breaks you, and then it remakes you. Like that is just how I view grief and the work that grief does. And it does some things to the person, and it does some things to their body. So when someone describes themselves as a shell of a person, I think you're not the same person anymore. You know, you are not.
You have a new shell.
Yes. A new shell. This is a metamorphosis. Like, you are now transforming. And I would encourage that person to let that transformation happen, because who you were when you had this person, it's not going to be who you are now. And sometimes you just have to allow for that change to happen.
A lot of people just hang on to that. And, you know, and I'm guilty of that. Obviously, in my first year, my brother's been past 7 years.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then my dad we're like a year. So my dad passed 2 days before
before my sister.
Her sister, and she just
we were
hit her
both
year.
planning at the same time.
Literally.
It was just insane.
Yeah, that was nuts. So for my brother, like, I can just, for you to say that, it was like, I feel like the people were also like, oh no, it's still party, Jess. Like, let's go out, let's party, let's get wasted. And I just was just not in that place. But like, I also mentioned it in another episode, you know, I think in our 50th episode, which aired, was like, oh, I kicked up other dust that needed to be worked on, like either childhood traumas, people-pleasing boundaries, things that were just not appropriate. What is self-awareness, you know? And then I get into, you know, then I confirm my critical thinking, and then people are like, you're a conspiracy theorist. I said, I don't care. I wear a tinfoil hat. I don't care, you know? But I do.
Yeah, I do often feel like, I kind of feel bad for the people who meet me now, because I know that I was a certain person when my sister was alive, and I've lost a lot of my identity in her. Oh, I'm gonna cry. I just feel like I'm a different person. I cannot be surface level anymore.
Yeah.
I feel deeply. I'm emotional. I ask questions about people and their siblings and their relationship. I can definitely agree that I was one person before my sister passed, and I have become a different person after. Not so much for the worst. I actually think for the better. But I think I am not a surface level person anymore. I don't do small talk anymore. It's incredibly hard for me.
It's uncomfortable for me.
It's very
I'm like,
uncomfortable.
girl, can you get to the point, girl?
Like, I don't want to talk about the weather, babe.
This is not real.
Yeah.
We're not talking real stuff anymore.
And it's like, what's your favorite color? Has anybody in your family ever died? Like, you know, like, I want to know.
No, what's your aura color? Like, what's your color?
I honestly want to know, like, what's your experience with grief? Because I was in an almost 5-year relationship that ended a month after my sister passed, because that person had no capability in dealing with grief, and it got to a point that I was being stonewalled. Yeah. And it was at that moment that I realized there's no way. There's no way, like, this engagement can go on. You know what I mean? So I think now I just feel like I'm hyper vigilant with my feelings. I'm hyper vigilant with, like, protecting myself, and I also am way more interested in deep conversations than lighthearted stuff. It's like,
I can't do it anymore.
I
don't waste my time.
Yeah.
Don't waste my time.
Right.
My time is energy at this point, and it took me a while. It took me a really long time to get there. Even I think we were going to talk about, we have another episode eventually we'll get to, it's like surviving the first year. And I had a lot of awakening. Mine was more spiritual, right? And I feel like I questioned God a lot. And I was like, how dare you take my brother? He was only 29. He didn't have children. He was single. Like, how dare you? Like, and not that I didn't believe in a higher power, but I was just like, I want to know who and what this is, and what does it look like?
What do you want me to learn from this?
What do you want me to learn from this? But I'm talking about that entity itself. Who is God? Who are you? Like, what is it? What are you trying to teach me at this point? When I tell you I went to the depths and dug and tried to make, I don't want to hear what you have to say. I don't want to hear, I had someone say, oh yeah, I had a dream of your brother and he's doing okay. And I'm like, I don't want to hear that.
Right.
Like, I don't want to hear that. I mean, it sounds nice, but what are you trying to do to me? Like,
right.
You think I'm going to believe you? I don't believe you. Like, I'm sorry. Like, if you're just trying to talk to me just to talk, say, hey, do you need some help to go through his things or things like that? Like, let's not.
But one thing I understand about grief too, and I didn't know this until I walked that path,
Sure.
is grief strengthens your discernment.
That's it.
I truly believe that. I believe that your BS detector
Oof.
is just solid.
And the
after,
intuition
right?
is nuts. Oh, yeah.
Like you can call it for what it is, right?
9 months in. Remember, I told you, I was like, I see these two, they're talking about me. I see the actions behind, and I was like, wait, am I just being hypervigilant? Am I being like ridiculous right now? No, that was just God saying, I'm hearing conversations that you're not hearing, and you gotta go.
Right.
So,
Right.
and that's those things. But you're absolutely right. The discernment has been, because I never knew. I was like, what's discernment? Like growing up, like what is that? What is
How can you tell, right?
Right.
Like,
how
do
can you
know?
tell? How can you tell your intuition from you just being nervous or you being paranoid? Like, how do you tell the difference? And grief it will shock the heck out of you, and you would really, really feel it. It's just, it's incredible to really go through, and again, it's not something that I wish on other people, but some people do need that wake up call because they are not living in reality. They are just living in la la land.
I think that's why it's so important in like a future partner of mine that I understand if they've dealt with grief in any capacity and how they dealt with it. And did it make them better?
Right.
Right? Did they go down a really ugly path? Are they trying? Are they facing it head on?
Are they in therapy?
Are they in therapy?
And I think that that's fair for you to check in on because we're taught to grieve just after the passing of someone, but there's relational loss, there's identity loss, there's role loss. And I think what you're saying is that you want to know if someone's experienced loss and at what capacity.
Yeah.
Because you can't be met in the depth that you wish to be met in.
Right.
If a person hasn't seen a little thing or two of like what grief looks
And
like.
that's funny you say it because I also saw like on Instagram there was a video like the next person I want to be with, I need to make sure that they can handle like this is the person I'm going to be with when I have to bury my parents. This is the person I'm going to have to be with when like and I never curse, but when shit hits the fan.
it's true.
Like who is going to, do they have the capacity? And, I'm very grateful my husband, he has been, such a rock, but then again, like he's working on finally tapping into those emotions. But even still to this day, his Instagram picture is with my brother and him, So it's like, sometimes I sit back, I'm like, as much as like, I want you to clean the dishes more,
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
The more important
things
yeah.
are like I really have someone solid in my corner because you know what? Eventually, my mom's, when my dad, like, he had such a great relationship with my dad, with my aunts in Ghana. Like, he just had such a great relationship with all of them. He does very well with parents, so do I. Parents love me. I don't know why.
I know why.
They love me. Well, but I'm honest. You know what it is? I'm honest, and I'm just like, I'm not trying to get your kid in trouble, but I am a little bit of trouble, but, but like, eventually, we're all going to have to go through that circle of life, but having that support. So which leads us to the next question. Like, how is it, since you mentioned your siblings, how is the grief looking differently? And like for you guys? Like,
like how do you and your siblings support each other? Because I'm sure you're all grieving your mom.
differently.
Are you all grieving differently?
We are all grieving differently.
Okay.
And I think it's important to highlight here that we are all grieving the same person.
Right.
But we are not grieving the same relationships with that person.
Right.
For my sister was incredibly close to my mother. So it's kind of like this best friend relationship that she constantly mourns, and I understand that for her. For me, I was a rebel growing up, and I gave my mom shit. And I'm sorry for cussing, but I gave her a hard time.
Yeah, same.
And I didn't make like
My little sister was like the perfect girl and had like the closest relationship with my mom, and I was the one who was just always getting into trouble.
Right.
We were from Lincoln School. We were from the streets.
Right. So it's like, and so I'm sure you mourn for your sister because she's missing that best friend I do the same thing with my mom. I'm like sad for her losing that relationship with my sister. Yeah. I get that.
Like really empathizing and feeling what she's feeling, but not at the depth that she feels it in, but understanding that for her. And for me, grieving a relationship that I wanted to have and I couldn't have it in time. My mother and I were building that relationship at the time that she had gotten her first stroke. She
Because you were
suffered
19.
2 strokes.
Wow.
I was 19.
Wow.
And I was building it with her. But while I was building it, it happened. And within minutes, that opportunity is long gone. So there's also like guilt associated with the grief that I experienced.
Yeah.
You know, having given someone I love very much a hard time because I had life to go through and wisdom to gain and things to understand, right? And then just going with that and going through those motions, and all of us are grieving very different relationships. And I think that it's important to recognize that my way of coping and my way of grieving is not a personal rejection, and neither is my sister's or my brother's, where everyone has their own methods of coping, and we just understand that for one another.
That's beautiful.
That is. I really like that for you. That's because it's also, even when my dad was diagnosed, they were like, well, we have to put a trachea in. Now, this man was a deacon. All he did was talk. And your take, and that was another, like, I guess if you want to call it, not a grief almost, but it was a grief for me, but also like a gripe with God. Like, how dare you? Like, you know that this man, that's all he does is tell stories and talk. And now you're losing the ability. And they were like, no, we can put like the thing. And I was like, no, you can't. I was like, because my grandfather had that. And I was like, he barely even used it. He was just like he'll, like towards the end before my grandfather passed. But my dad couldn't say anything. So he just basically had to sign. And my dad was blind also. So he lost his vision 10 years prior to that. So it was just like one after the next. So I definitely really feel for you, and I definitely understand, especially when I saw that he had lost his vision. I was just like, I kind of grieved. I was like, it's downhill from here because he's not going to be able to move as much. He's not going to be able to go to the store. He's going to need assistance. Like, and I just knew that his health was going to dwindle.
It's so interesting because our next question is literally, what does acceptance actually look like when the loss is ongoing and irreversible? And that's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's like, what does acceptance look like?
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
You know, acceptance doesn't equal approval. And just because you've learned to accept something, I mean, acceptance is also the last stage in grief, right?
Yeah.
But just because it's the last stage doesn't mean that's it.
Right.
Everyone,
You feel better.
All's done, right?
Right.
Like, it just means learning how to walk through this life with grief and not without it. You're moving forward, but not moving on from.
Yeah.
There's a big difference. And I always describe it as like walking this path that we all have to continue walking.
Absolutely.
And grief, if we personify it for a minute, right? Like, grief is walking beside you.
Yeah.
Acceptance looks a lot like grief takes its own path and leaves you alone for a little bit, and then it meets you on that journey again. And it's in and it's out.
Yeah.
And it's
like a
there
double
and
dutch.
it's not.
It's
right?
like a double dutch. It jumps in and you're jumping out. Like that. You're so right about that. It's just quite incredible how far we've come in our grief, and that's including you. Because to even have this type of conversation, it's very difficult. And still to this day, there's people that have lost someone 20 years prior, and it's still hard for them to talk about it, you know? And obviously, like you doing grief work, you know, you probably see this day in and day out.
Yeah. And you know, part of being in the helping profession is to be able to contain my own emotions, because my feelings are, I promise you guys, it is big. I have big feelings about some of these things, but being able to contain and regulate myself is it's crucial for me to be in the helping profession and be able to, you know, master that skill.
Yeah.
Because if not, we're all crying in the room, right?
Compartmentalizing?
We got to compartmentalize. Yeah.
Queen. Match a match? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No, but you know what? It is work. And I'm telling you, it is
I know. It's like, oh my God. Like, once I'm like done with a client and I know that they were like grieving some stuff, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need a second.
Yes.
I'm like, how do I woosah, you know? And then I really like, I'll just jot some stuff down, or I'll just be like, let me go in the shower and just kind of release that, because it sticks with you, you know, especially when you're doing this, any helping profession, like it just sticks with you.
Yeah, hats off to both of you, because I'm not built for it. I'd be like, I would end up having my client console me, because I would be crying.
To be like, what the hell am I doing
I'd be
here?
like, he did what?
Yeah. Oh, no,
What
no.
a bastard.
Oh, no, not me. I'm like, see, I'm a different therapist. I'm like, how does he look? Send me a picture.
Yeah. You know what? Clients need more of that. I think so.
I swear. I'm like, send me a picture. I want to see. This is who you're crying over,
Jessica
girl?
will be like, you shot him? What do you do?
I'm like, do you need an alibi?
Yeah. But clients feel connected to
Yes.
support like that. We are
Yes.
not robots.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna have questions. We want to know who looks like what and what did they
my
do.
one client, she sends me, she was like, oh, look at my husband. And
Yeah.
she was like, look, he won an award. And it was Michael Boxer that he won the award. I was like, oh, did he shout you out? She was like, no, I want to know who the chick is. I was like, let's find out. Let's look, you know? And you have to make it personable, you know? What do you hope that our listeners, especially those grieving in silence, feel after hearing this and after watching this episode?
Life is hard, you guys. Life is hard.
Life is lifing at this point.
And our losses, sometimes the losses that we take are unbearable, right? This may not be what you expect for me to say, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's my truth. Let yourself grieve. Give yourself permission to do that. Give yourself permission to struggle. If you need to fall apart, do exactly that. Find cover in the people and places that can give that to you and offer it. I promise you, you will find your way back at your own time and in your own pace, but start somewhere. Because the more that you resist grief, the more that it's going to come back and force its visit onto you.
Oh, that's like the Tyler Perry thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It will find you.
Yeah,
It'll find you.
one of the first conversations I had with a grief counselor, I think it was like 26 days after my sister passed, I said, I feel like I'm drowning. And she's like, you're drowning because you're fighting it. If you're in the ocean and you're in the waves and they're hitting you, you're going to drown because you're fighting it. If you can calm down and kind of go with the waves of grief, you can start to float a little bit. And I think that's really kind of changed my perspective a little bit. It's like, okay, I have to feel this. I can't be fighting it the whole time, you know?
Right.
Still working on a lot, but
We
It's
all
always
are.
going to be work, right?
Yes.
Like, we're all figuring it out. And I think that that's the part that isn't really recognized. It's not like, oh, that's it. Grief is
there's no
done.
timeline.
There's no timeline.
It's a
And
forever type of thing.
Absolutely. And there's always going to be something else that's going to trigger it too. So how can our audience reach out to you if they want to look for you to be a client or a patient? How can they reach out to you?
Well, I'm on Psychology Today.
Okay.
You can find me by searching my name, and all my contact information's on there. It's kind of like the marketplace for finding a therapist. You know
that
about
and ZocDoc.
that and
I'm
ZocDoc.
pissed at them right now. But anyway.
Me too, and that's why I did not mention ZocDoc.
You guys gotta fix something.
We gotta fix it.
Yep, from one clinician to another.
Yes. Fix
Sorry.
it. So what I'll do is I'll put your psychology,
your name,
the Psychology Today link in, and then if they want to work with you, then we can be able to reach out to you. And just thank you so
Yes,
much for
thank
this
you.
conversation. I think it was so needed, and I think it was so important to touch on this part of grief. I know when we were contacting, I was like, okay, we need something also to help our guests and be able to that they can take it home with them.
Also,
as well.
you're in it. You're
Yes.
not talking in past tense. This is an
Right.
actual live thing that's happening
Yes,
in your life
exactly.
right now. And I think it's important for people to see people going through things that they're going through in real time.
Right.
You're here. You're present.
Right.
Your makeup looks beautiful.
Right.
You're talking with us.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it's not lost on us how much that takes for you to do.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So we really appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much.
you.
And I appreciate you ladies for holding space for conversations like this to exist, because I can
Yes.
assure you they don't exist in many places.
Wow.
Spaces like this
heartwarming.
that
Thank
you
you.
both hold.
Yes,
So
that's
Thank you
very
so
hard.
much.
Thank you. And thank you to our audience.
Yes,
thank you
thank
so much
you.
for checking out this episode. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, TikTok, Instagram. I almost got that one. And Threads. Come on. Yes, Threads have been like such a great connection spot. Like I'm really enjoying Threads
Yes,
and just
please
being
connect
there.
with us and share us to
And
anybody who you
Wendy's
might think.
is going off. I love
Wendy's?
yes, I have to send you Wendy's. Whoever does their marketing is phenomenal.
I'm like Wendy's hamburgers?
Yes! I'm talking about Wendy's hamburgers. They are phenomenal. I got to send you. They're hilarious. Thank you so much for joining us. Now I want a burger.
Me too.
You're not alone. Thank you so much.